Start na ba? So, can start. So, good morning, everyone, students. I hope you guys are all doing well and excited for our today's lesson. So, but before we start, let's have a short review about our topic yesterday, which is all about, um, yes, Miss Fernando.
Personal pronouns, ma'am.
Okay. So, next slide, please. So, personal pronouns. And what is a personal pronoun?
Personal pronouns are used to replace nouns in a sentence.
Okay, yes, that's right. We use personal pronouns to avoid repetition to the noun. Now, what about the two forms of personal pronouns? Can you still remember it? Yes, Mr. Manalaysay.
The two forms of personal pronouns are subject and object po.
Okay, very good. Subject pronouns are used to replace the subject in the sentence, while the object pronoun is the replacement of the object. So always remember that the object is the one who receives the action of the verb. So good job, guys. It seems like you understand our previous lesson very well. So now I'll be presenting some sentences and you guys will identify the pronouns used and also determine whether it's in a subject or in an object form. So, for sentence number one,
I love the weather today. The personal pronoun used was I. It's in the subject form.
okay, correct. And what is the subject form of I, Miss Fernando?
Me po.
Okay, good job. How about sentence number two? Yes, Mr. Manalaysay.
The king wrote us a letter. The personal pronoun used was us. It's in object form.
Very good. And what about the subject form of us?
We po.
Okay, that's right. And for number three, yes, Miss Atalia.
Vanessa can't stop thinking of you. The personal pronoun used was you and it's in object form.
So, correct. Can you tell me the subject form of you?
It is still you, ma'am.
Okay, that's right. You will still remain you even it's in subject or object form. So you've done a great job, students. You already mastered the use of personal pronouns, and I think you guys are now ready for our today's lesson. So let's proceed. The reason why we did a quick brush up regarding our previous lesson is because our topic for today, which is the reflexive pronoun, is somehow a continuation of your learnings yesterday. So let me present you a sentence. Okay, please read the sentence. Yes, Mr. Anidre.
He cut himself while chopping vegetables.
Okay. So from our previous discussion, can you tell me the subject of this sentence?
He is the subject po.
Very good. So because he is the one who's doing the action, which one is the action or the verb?
The word cut po.
Okay, that's right. Then if the pronoun he is the subject and cut is the object, then who do you think is the object in the sentence?
The object is himself po.
Okay, so why do you think so?
Because himself was the one who received the action.
Okay, a very well explanation. Thank you, Mr. Aditray. So now that we already identified himself as the object in this sentence, what do you think is the difference of this sentence from the previous sentences we answered earlier during our short review? Yes, Miss Fernando. Miss Fernando, are you there? Okay, I think she's having a problem with her internet connection. So the object pronoun used in this sentence, the difference from it to other sentences, that is it has a suffix self on the end. So, but an objective pronoun with suffix self or selves, there are what we call reflexive pronouns. So now let's check what reflexive pronoun is. So, reflexive pronouns show that the subject of a verb is the same as its object. As you can notice, the object himself refers to the subject he. So how can we tell that the reflexive pronoun refers back to the subject? It is when the same person is affected by the action. So who cut someone while chopping the vegetables? Mr. Manalaysay.
He po.
And who was cut by he while chopping vegetables?
Himself.
Yes. Is he and himself are the same person? Yes, they are. Therefore, there is need for a reflexive pronoun. Any question? So if
None po.
none, okay, thank you. So if none, let's proceed on how reflexive pronouns are formed. So here I prepared a pronoun chart. So here's the pronoun chart. So let's focus on the object pronouns and their reflexive pronouns. So from me, it turns into myself, you, yourself, you, yourselves for the plural form, her, herself, he to himself, it, itself, us to ourselves, and them to themselves. So, what you guys have observed? Yes, Miss Atalia?
Hello po, am I being heard po?
Yes, you are.
Okay po. Ref- reflexive pronouns are formed through adding suffix self or selves on object pronouns.
Yes, that's right, just like what we said earlier. Thank you. So, I hope you guys now already understand the pattern of on forming reflexive pronouns. I'll present further examples on how reflexive pronouns are used. So here's the sentences. Next slide, please. Yeah, so sentence number one. I left myself a reminder about the meeting. The reflexive pronoun here is the word myself. It was I, the subject, who left a reminder, and whom I left my reminder. It's for myself. So for number sentence two, the door locks itself when you close it. The reflexive pronoun is itself. So who is the doer of the action? It is the door that locks. Then who is the receiver of the action? Itself. Itself refers back to the door. Sentence 3. They're teaching themselves to cook. The reflexive pronoun is themselves. Who teaches? It is they. And who are they teaching? Their own selves. Therefore, themselves. So, are you now guys familiar on how reflexive pronoun is used? Please use the raise hand button if yes. So if yes, I'll be asking each one of you to compose a sentence that uses a reflexive pronoun. Let's start on you, Mr. Anidre.
Um, he introduced himself to the other guest.
Okay, himself refers back to the he. So very good. Next, Miss Fernando.
We pride ourselves on our customer service.
Good job. So ourselves refers back to the subject we. So now that we're done discussing the general concept or idea in using reflexive pronoun, let us now proceed to its rules and limitations. So first is using reflexive pronoun for emphasis. Sometimes reflexive pronouns are not essential to grammar of the sentence, but it can be used to add emphasis in different ways. So I have sample sentences here, and I'll show you how reflexive pronoun can change how we perceive the context of the sentence through emphasizing things in different ways. So, sentence 1. The company gave the talk. Have you seen a reflexive pronoun in the sentence? No. With the absence of reflexive pronoun, does the sentence still make sense? Yes, we can still understand the sentence. However, aside from the fact that the company was the one who gave the talk, we cannot conclude anything at all now from the sentence. So, sentence number 2. The company director gave the talk himself. As you can notice, the reflexive was at the end of the sentence. And if it is in the end, meaning it emphasizes that the action was not done by someone else. It was like the sentence 2 is telling that the company director was the one who gave the talk rather than getting someone else to do it. So now forward to the last sentence. The company director himself gave the talk. So both sentence 2 and 3 have their reflexive pronoun, but can someone point out their difference? No, the difference between them, anyone? Yes, Mr. Manaraysay.
The difference between them is that the reflexive pronoun in sentence A was next to the subject, which is the company director. Meanwhile, the reflexive pronoun from sentence 2 was at the end.
Okay, so it's a very good observation. If the reflexive was directly after the subject, it emphasizes the importance of the subject. So, sentence 3 is making us think that the company director, who is an important person, gave the talk. Notice the changes that the reflexive pronouns position can make in the whole sentence. So, here are some other examples. Sentence 1, please read Miss Atalia.
You don't have to do the dishes. I'll do them myself.
So, who was being emphasized in the sentence and what does the sentence is trying to say?
The I subject po. There's no one to wash the dishes besides I.
Okay, very good. For sentence number 2, please read Mr. Anidre.
The meet itself wasn't very good, but it was a great evening.
Okay, so similar question. Who or what was being emphasized in the sentence?
The subject meet. The sentence is telling the importance to talk about the subject, which is the meet.
Okay, correct. And for the last sentence, yes, Miss Fernando.
The board member themselves will be at the meeting today. The sentence is emphasizing the importance of the board members' attendance.
Okay, good job. I guess we are already clear with this part. Now let's move on to the next. The reflexive collocation. So to understand this, we need to first identify what collocation is in grammar. Is there anyone who has a clue about collocation? Yes, Mr. Manalaysay.
Collocation in grammar pertains to the words that are commonly used together.
Okay, yes, thank you. I agree. Collocation is two or more words that often go together. These are natural combination that sounds right to native English speakers. So many collocation contain reflexive pronouns, that is what we call reflexive collocations, and they often follow the pattern verb plus reflexive pronoun plus preposition. Take a look at this example. So here's the sentence. She still has to familiarize herself with company policy. Observe the pattern. Here comes the verb, reflexive pronoun, and the preposition with. This could be she still has to familiarize with company policy. No reflexive pronoun. Still makes sense, right? But it doesn't sound good. We are using the collocation to follow what we English speakers usually heard. So or usually here. So another thing under reflexive collocation is sometimes there are kinds of sentences wherein the subject is not included but is implied by the reflexive pronoun. For example, the sentence, "Are you leaving early today?" Enjoy yourself. Study the last phrase. So, enjoy is a verb, right? Sorry for the noise. Then, who is the one to enjoy? Reflexive pronouns are often used in the imperative. Here, yourself implies that you is the subject. Did you get it? So, and
Yes
lastly,
po.
okay, thank you. So, and lastly is the use of by. So, usually we use the word by, then followed by a reflexive pronoun to emphasize the subject is alone. So, look at this sentence. So, he is sitting by himself at the cafe. By is used with the reflexive pronoun to mean alone. These are the following instances that you may be wondering why we are using reflexive pronouns. So if there are things that still confuse you, you may raise your hand. If none, then I will assume that everything was clear. So may I call someone from the class to construct a sentence that uses a reflexive collocation? Use the example sentences I provided as a reference. Yes, Miss Athalia, can you share us one?
The managers don't concern themselves with minor issues.
Okay, so the subject of your sentence will be the managers, and the verb is concerned. Reflexive pronoun is themselves and preposition with. Concern themselves. Yes, that is correct. So thank you for sharing. How about you, Mr. Anidre?
Remember to behave yourselves when you are in public.
Oh, a good example, Mr. Anidre. Thank you. So take a look at his sentence. The word behave is the verb, and the reflexive pronoun is the word yourselves. There is no preposition after that, but it's still acceptable. It's just that we usually follow the pattern verb plus reflexive pronoun plus preposition. But have you noticed the word you in the sentence? Let me repeat his sentence. Remember to behave yourselves when you are in public. Without the reflexive pronoun yourselves, we cannot determine if you is singular or plural. So, so, in short, if the reflexive pronoun, in short, it is the reflexive pronoun that implies if the you is singular or plural. So now that we're done discussing the rules in using reflexive pronouns in different ways, let us now move on to its limitation or when we should not use reflexive pronouns. Um, Students, I encourage you to pay attention with this part because this is where we usually commit our common mistakes in grammar. So most of it were really minor, most that it might actually surprise you because you'll realize that you've been doing the wrong thing all along. So let's start. First is verbs that cannot be reflexive. As you can see, I have two sentences, one without reflexive pronoun and the one has. Can you guess which of the two sentences is correct? Please type your answer in the chat box if it's sentence number one or sentence number two. You can guess. So, okay, now let's see the correct answer. So, the first sentence is correct. The one without reflexive pronoun. Though both of the sentences tells the same context, then why the other one is correct and the other one is wrong? Is it because it is because several verbs that are followed by reflexive pronoun in other languages are not normally followed by a reflexive pronoun in English. So basically, it's an English grammar rule. So these several verbs that we mentioned are usually the verbs we call intransitive. Take note of that, intransitive. So intransitive verbs are the verbs that does not require a direct or indirect object. These are type of verbs that can stand on its own, like for example, smile, rain, die, sneeze. Here. When for example, when I said he walks, you can understand the sentence already, right? So moreover, please take note of this. Reflexive pronoun is not used after verbs which describe things. people usually do for themselves. So check these sample sentences. I can't relax myself. I get up myself early every day. She goes to her bed herself at the same time every night. He washes his hair himself every morning. Aren't these kinds of sentences sounds off? So you can say, I can't relax. I get up early every day. She goes to her bed at the same time every night. He washes his hair every morning. So using reflexive pronouns are unnecessary of this kind of sentences because the verb that were used were obviously done by the subject for his or her own. So next is the object is different from the subject. So as what we've discussed earlier, a reflexive pronoun can only be used if the subject and object of the sentence are the same. If the object is different from the subject, an object pronoun should be used instead. So study these two sentences. Which one do you think is correct? Yes, Miss Fernando.
I think it's the second sentence, ma'am. My boss invited Joe and me to the meeting.
Okay, it's the second sentence. And what made you think the second sentence is correct?
It's because the object, which are myself and Joe, does not refer back to the subject, my boss. So I think it's wrong to use reflexive pronoun in that situation. The speaker must stick to object pronoun, which is the me.
Okay, thank you. Exactly. I is not the subject of the sentence, so it is wrong to use a reflexive pronoun. The subject of the sentence here is my boss. My boss and I are not the same person, so it is correct to use an object pronoun instead of the reflexive. Understand? So, and as for the last one, we should not be using reflexive pronouns when two people or two more two or more things perform the same action. So this is what we simply call the each other rule because we use the word each other instead of reflexive pronouns. So study these two sentences. Um, Amy and Raj look at each other. So the context of this sentence will be Amy is looking at Raj and Raj is looking at Amy. So the action here is the word look or looking. Do they perform the same action? Yes, they are. That is why we use each other. Meanwhile, in the second sentence, Amy and Raj look at themselves in the mirror. The context of this sentence will be Amy is looking herself in the mirror and Raj is looking himself at the mirror. So, do they perform the same action? No. They were just both looking at the same mirror, but they are doing the action individually. That is why the reflexive pronoun themselves was used. So, do you follow, students?
Yes po.
Okay, thank you. So, it was like this. You can say Amy and Raj look at each other if Amy is looking at Raj and Raj is looking away from Amy. However, Amy and Raj can look themselves anytime they want in the mirror because they do not share the same action. Understand? Any question?
None po.
No questions po.
Okay, so if none, I think that's all for our today's discussion. So, for your activity 12, say something about yourself in 3 paragraphs. Use a minimum of 5 reflexive pronouns and don't forget to take note of the rules we have discussed today. So, the deadline of this activity will be on our next meeting. So, thank you, class, and have a nice day.
Thank you po.
Thank you, and goodbye.
Thank you po.